Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hersa, also known as the Hersa Way. Just kidding. My name is Sarah, also known as Already Shopped It. Sadly, I am not Hersa, but I am collabing with Hersa today, and I love her so much that I have her YouTube intro memorized. There's only a select few that have made that list, so it is an honor and a privilege to be collabing in this video with my friend Hersa. Fun fact, Hersa and I are actually birthday twins. We were both born on December 19th. And it is so fun every year to get excited again to celebrate my birthday with her. Today we are going to be doing a super fun eyeshadow palette tag, which was created by Angelica Lyremar. I'm not 100% sure on that pronunciation, but this is 8 questions all about eyeshadow palettes, different eyeshadow palettes that I feel like represent different facets of me and my personality. I feel like this one is so much fun that I actually really want to see other people do it, so I'm going to have the questions in the description box down below if you have a YouTube channel and you want to film it, or if you don't have a YouTube channel and you just want to give us your answers in the comments. That would also be really, really fun to read through. Also, before we go any further, if you are not following Hersa, especially if you are a fan of indie eyeshadows, stop what you're doing, click off of my video, go over to her channel and to her Instagram and follow her immediately, because she is the absolute queen when it comes to indie eyeshadows, build your own palettes. She does lots of colorful looks, really, really glam looks. I'm so in love with her makeup style and the way that she experiments with color and shape, and she always looks so freaking beautiful and glamorous. So definitely make sure you go check out my birthday twin. I will obviously have her linked in the description box down below. But let's get into some of these questions. Okay, number 1, this is such a tough one. Honestly, I've been thinking about this for like weeks. So if I were to pick an eyeshadow palette in my collection that best represents me based on the color story, there's a few that I feel like I could have picked. The palette that I have chosen to represent me based on the color story is the Beauty Bay and Jade palette. Now, I have my reasons. Obviously, this is a huge color story. I think you have pretty much every color you could want in here, from warm tones to cool tones to neutrals to mattes to shimmers. And that's why I picked this, because this color story doesn't make a ton of sense. It's kind of all over the place. You've got all different kinds of bright, fun, colorful shades mixed in with very like subdued, everyday neutral shades. And I feel like that's me. This sums me up not only in like my makeup journey, but also in my personality. So like, sometimes I really want to be loud and I want to be edgy and daring and different and outgoing, but a lot of the time I don't. I am an introvert. I tend to be more reserved, and a lot of times I just want to kind of exist and fly under the radar. Hersa might understand this because she is also a Sagittarius. As we've learned, we have the same birthday. So I'm wondering if that is kind of like a Sagittarius thing of like, sometimes I will just get a wild hair and I will want to change my entire life, change my entire personality, be a person who wears neon yellow eyeshadow. And then other times I just kind of want to be in my safe zone. You know what I mean? I want to be in my sweatpants, under a blanket, with a mug of tea, cuddling my cats and reading a book. You know what I'm saying? My best friend Taylor, whenever I would feel bad about like changing my mind all the time, would always tell me this famous quote. I think it's by Walt Whitman. I don't know exactly, but she used to say, "Sarah, it's okay. You just contain multitudes." And I feel like I contain multitudes. I think we all do. And I think this palette does as well. So personality-wise, this color story gets me. It's a little bit chaotic. It's a little bit of a mess. It's got every color of the rainbow, but it's also got some safe, comfortable colors as well. And that also very accurately explains my journey with makeup. I have waxed and waned with eyeshadow, and right now I'm definitely in like a neutral leaning moment. I used to wear only neutral eyeshadow, and then I started getting more into makeup and into eyeshadow palettes, and then it was all color all the time, full glam, lots of experimenting. So yeah, I'm up and down with my eyeshadow preferences and with my makeup journey, and I feel like this palette really speaks to that as well. Let me know if any of you relate to those things. I tried not to get too philosophical with it, but I am also prone to getting philosophical on this channel. Next up is to pick an eyeshadow palette in your collection that represents you in terms of the packaging. So this one was also a toughie. There's a few I think that I could have picked for this. I don't know if I should do honorable mentions because I feel like that might kind of be cheating. Maybe I will do an honorable mention for this one though. I picked my Lunar Beauty Moonspell Volume 2. I don't know if you all have noticed my background in any of my videos, but I am a huge reader, and little known fact, I'm actually in graduate school for literature, and the fact that Lunar Beauty came out with an eyeshadow palette in the shape of a book, and it even has a hard case like you would get if you were buying a really old, rare, or expensive version of a book. And it sits up on a shelf like a book. I just love it. I'll show you the inside of the palette just in case you're curious. It's lots of like purpley, pinky, corally tones. But yeah, the outside of this, I feel like really sums me up in terms of my other hobby, my non-makeup hobby, which is very much so reading. If any of you also love to read, I would love to know that in the comments down below. And tell me your favorite like genres to read and if you have any favorite books, because I'm always looking for recommendations. I read a lot of literary fiction, I read a lot of classics, but I also really like fantasy. I like a good mystery from time to time, historical fiction. Really, I'll read anything. So give me your best recommendations down below, please and thank you. Number 3 is going to be a little bit of a sneak preview for you. I haven't yet gotten around to filming my next like seasonal palettes you might already have in your collection video, but this one is to pick an eyeshadow palette that represents spring. And this was actually really easy. Like I immediately thought of this palette, so I knew I had to include it for this one. I am going to include my Oden's Eye and Makeup Just for Fun Flora Story palette. First of all, the packaging of this, it's like a beautiful forest fairy. It's got like some really pretty plants and mushrooms, even like some bees and stuff. So I feel like that really lends itself well to spring and the change in the weather. Also, the color story of this one, I feel like these tones are very muted, and at least where I live in the Midwest, the spring does feel very muted until all of a sudden one day there's color everywhere and all the flowers are blooming. The spring definitely takes its time. Like spring is a process, and a lot of that process does involve rain, overcast cloudy days, some gloomy days, but also some days where the flowers are blooming. You notice green leaves back on the trees. And I feel like this palette just perfectly kind of sums that up. Like you've got a bit of color there, you've got some bright green, but you've also got some pretty muted tones and some softer tones. And I just absolutely love this color story, and it definitely strikes me as a perfect transitional palette for moving out of winter and into spring, because these shades are just so soft. And even though they are a little bit on the colorful side, they almost read as neutrals to me because they are so toned down. I feel like this is just the perfect spring palette, and I honestly can't wait to dip into this one this spring. I really need to dip into this one soon because spring is here. We're in April, and I am actually really loving, I don't know if you can tell from my eye look today, I'm wearing actually just a single eyeshadow, but I'm really loving like a soft wash of green over the lids with like a neutral base. I feel like that's a really nice kind of neutral everyday way to wear color in the spring. So this palette will be perfect for that as well. Number 4 is pick an eyeshadow palette in your collection that represents happy. This was another one that I was immediately like, yes, every time I see that palette, I feel happy. And it is my Kaleidos Escape Pod. First of all, we have to take a minute for the packaging because it's so fun and just like, I don't know, abstract. It's almost like abstract art. I love the way that this looks. It gives me like a little bit of like 90s vibes. Like, I don't know, Kaleidos' whole like space collection reminds me a lot of like the Xenon movies. But it's so colorful. It's like a little bit holographic, and yeah, just super fun packaging. And then the inside of the palette and the color story really reflects that as well. So you've got really, really bright, fun shades in here, and then a bunch of absolutely stunning shimmers, many of which are actually duochrome. And then the best part is you have 3 very neutral shades. So there's a lid setting shade, a transition shade, and then a brown, like deepening up shade. So seeing all the color in this palette makes me feel really happy. I feel like these bright tones just remind me of sunshine and fun and like a little bit of nostalgia maybe for like the bright colors of the 90s. If you grew up in the 90s, let me know what you think of, but I think of like Lizzie McGuire. You know what I mean? Roller skating, Claire's Limited 2. I just love how saturated these colors are and how shiny and impactful the shimmers are. And this is another one that I'm going to be dipping into very, very soon. Number 5 is a really fun one. This one is pick an eyeshadow palette that represents the dark or grungy in you. So, okay. There were so many ways I could have gone with this one too. I ended up settling on my Melt Cosmetics Gemini palette just because apparently I'm having like a real moment of yearning for the 90s. This color story to me just really sums up grunge. And when I think of grunge, I definitely think of the 90s. And this is just such a classic palette for a reason. You've got the nice grungy greens, you've got the grungy mustard tones, you've got an excellent black in here, which really deepens everything up. This is definitely a color story I associate with grungy looks and like deep brown lips and like a deep kind of rusty toned blush. Very fall in my opinion, but also like a classic smoky eye. I feel like it would be so easy to create with this palette. I've never actually done that with this palette, but yeah, if you just had a black eyeliner, you could smudge it out with the black here, do a little blending with the brown and then the warmer tone transition shade, and I feel like you could use this shade up here to just blend everything, and you would have a classic, really grungy, really dark eye look. So yeah, maybe I should try that. But this is one where I feel like I could have answered with a lot of different palettes. This question in particular, I'm really excited to see what Hersa picks because I definitely associate her with like the dark feminine, like, I don't know, just deep, like almost jewel toned glam eye looks. So I'm really excited to see what she picks for this one. Okay, moving on to number 6, pick an eyeshadow palette that represents the girly. Maybe a no-brainer, but I picked my Huda Beauty Rose Quartz. Gosh, I love this palette. I think it's an obvious choice for girly looks because it's kind of pinky purpley, but it's also so fun. And there's so many cool textures in here and some really rich, like taupey, neutral shades. You can go really, really deep. You can go really like sparkly and galactic almost with your looks. This is one of the palettes where I always feel very confident in what I look like and what my makeup looks like when I use it, no matter what eye look I did. And when I feel confident that way, I feel like I connect very strongly with my own like feminine side. So that's kind of why I picked this one. I feel like you could pick like any pink eyeshadow palette and that would satisfy the prompt, but I definitely wanted to pick one that I felt more connected to in terms of like my own femininity and my confidence and the way that I, you know, sometimes use makeup to give me that little boost. So yes, this is a firm favorite in my collection and definitely a great one for girly or feminine looks. The next one is pick an eyeshadow palette that represents fun. Again, there were so many that I could have picked for this. I feel like the Beauty Bay and Jade palette would have worked really well for this. Any of my Oden's Eye palettes would have worked really well. But the one that I ended up going with was my Beauty Bay Wilderness palette. This palette just really ignited my love for grungy, rainbow, colorful eye looks. And I will forever associate this palette, I think, with those early kind of experimentations with eyeshadow and with color and with really blown out, just grungy, glam looks. I have had so much fun. Like the first rainbow eyeshadow look I ever did was using this palette. And I just remember absolutely loving that look and loving the process of putting it together. I've used this palette for so many different looks on my channel and my Instagram. I've done a St. Patrick's Day look with this one. I've used this one in palette bingos, and I just feel like every time I dip into this palette, I have fun with it, and it's always pushing me to do something new. And I feel like I can't say that about every palette that I have, because a lot of times I gravitate towards the same shades and the same looks over and over. But with this one, I just feel like I just always have a good time with it. Do you have any palettes like that? I would actually really, really love to know what your palettes are that you associate with just fun, because really that's what makeup's all about, you know? And then finally, last but not least, we have an eyeshadow palette in your collection that represents inspiration. Again, there's so many palettes that could fit this prompt, but the palette that I ended up going with is the Oden's Eye and Lauren Mae Beauty collab, the Sea Talk palette. I almost put this palette in like 3 other categories because I absolutely love mermaids, so I felt like this packaging really represented me well. This color story is a beautiful color story for like spring and summer. But ultimately, I decided to put this one in inspiration because I think that this palette just really helped unlock something in my brain, which was that neutrals and color can coexist together. And I feel like for a long time, I kind of struggled with that. Like, I can either wear a neutral eye look or I can wear a colorful eye look, but the two never shall meet. But honestly, some of my most favorite looks to wear, like I mentioned with the eye look I'm wearing today, are something that it feels fairly neutral, but it's still playing with color a little bit in maybe like a subtle way, either through like, you know, a wash over the lid or a fun pop in the inner corner. And this palette, I think I just really was so inspired by because of the way that Lauren paired the neutrals with the fun shades. And I remember when I did my 3 looks 1 palette video with this palette, I absolutely loved every single look in that video. I was so excited to create looks with this palette and I felt so inspired by it. I can actually link that video down below. I know it's old and this palette is long discontinued, but maybe you have similar like neutrals and pops of color in your collection that you could pair together. But yeah, whenever I look at this palette, I look at this like really bright kind of lime yellow shade and I feel so inspired to put that shade into looks. There's some really interesting like shifty shades in this palette, the shade Iridescent Shell and the shade Mermaid Scale. I also really love the shade Ocean Jewel, and like this little blue corner here I feel like creates such a moody, just mysterious kind of jewel toned, again, dark, sultry look, like a dark, sultry mermaid look. And then you have these absolutely stunning neutrals up here. So another thing that I wanted to say is that I look at people like Hersa who have the most stunning, like bright blue-green eyes. And for so many years in my life, I coveted people with blue and green eyes, and I did not like my eye color. I thought it was so boring. This is a palette that makes me feel inspired by my own eye color. And I know that sounds maybe very silly to some of you. Maybe if you have brown eyes, you might understand this, but I feel like this is a palette where all of the colors just beautifully complement brown eyes. Like for what like this taupey shade, this bronze, the lime green, again, just pairs as like a really beautiful contrast. This one is a pink, but it has lots of other shifts in it. It really just like provides that iridescence to the lid that makes your eyes look brighter and pop. And then of course, blues on brown eyes. Let me just say, if you have brown eyes and you haven't done like a sultry blue smoky eye yet, try it. I guarantee you're gonna love the way that your eyes look. So again, I feel like I'm getting philosophical here, always doing that in my frickin' eyeshadow videos. I do think that makeup is for fun. That's definitely a huge part of it, but it's also to help us kind of find our power in a weird way. And this palette in particular has made me feel inspired by my own features in a way that I feel like I might not have grown to appreciate my brown eyes without this palette or without any of these palettes, and experimenting with color and with different types of eye looks. So yes, those are all of the eyeshadow palettes in the eyeshadow palette tag. I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you have any of these palettes? Do you love any of these palettes? And what would your palette choices be for these questions? I love chances like this to reflect on my palette collection, my makeup journey, the really fun looks that I've done over the years that have just created really fun memories with certain palettes. And I am loving all of these opportunities to collab with my friends on YouTube. I hope you all are loving these collabs just as much as I am. And definitely make sure you check Hersa out if you are not following her already. She is a beautiful person inside and out. And thank you, Hersa, for collabing with me on this video. It was so much fun. So yes, give the video a like if you liked it, and subscribe before you leave if you'd like to see more content from me. Watch me talk about eyeshadow palettes, which I could clearly talk about forever. And I will look for you in my next video. Bye.